The Devourer had consumed 17 civilizations across the spiral arm when it arrived at the blue-green world orbiting the yellow star. Its massive biomechanical form stretched across space like a living asteroid, scarred carapace gleaming with the absorption ports that had drained the life essence from countless planets. Each world had fallen the same way, populations fleeing in terror, their strongest warriors crumbling before its psychic emanations of pure predatory hunger. The creature's sensory arrays detected the electromagnetic chatter of another spacefaring species. Humans, they called themselves. The Devourer's ancient consciousness stirred with anticipation. It had learned their patterns well. First came the scout ships darting about like frightened insects. Then the military vessels bristling with primitive weapons. Finally, the evacuation fleets carrying the survivors to temporary safety, while their homeworld was stripped bare. But as the Devourer settled into orbit around Earth, something felt different. The human ships approached, yes, but they weren't fleeing. A small delegation vessel moved toward the cosmic predator with steady purpose. The Devourer's mind, honed by eons of hunting, recognized no fear in their approach. Curious, it allowed the ship to dock with one of its external chambers. 3 humans emerged. A woman with silver hair whose eyes held depths the Devourer had never encountered. A man whose steady gaze suggested complete fearlessness, and between them, a young human child who couldn't have been more than 10 cycles old. "Greetings," the woman said, her voice carrying clearly through the bioacoustic chamber. "I'm Dr. Elena Vasquez, this is Captain James Chen, and this is my daughter Maya." The Devourer's voice rumbled through the chamber, a sound that had driven entire species to madness. "I am death, I am hunger. I have devoured worlds beyond your counting. You should be fleeing." The little girl looked up at the massive biomechanical horror looming above them, its feeding tendrils writhing, its absorption ports glowing with malevolent energy. The Devourer focused its full psychic presence on her, projecting every nightmare it had crafted, every terror it had learned to weaponize. Maya tilted her head slightly, considering the ancient predator with the earnest attention that only children possess. Then she smiled. It wasn't a brave smile or a defiant smile or a smile born of madness in the face of certain death. It was simply a smile, genuine, warm, and completely without pretense. The kind of expression that said without words, "Hello there. Aren't you interesting?" The Devourer's psychic assault faltered. In 17 civilizations across 4 million years of hunting, nothing had ever responded to its presence with simple, uncomplicated joy. "You're really big," Maya said conversationally. "And you look sad." Sad? The concept was alien to the Devourer. It was hunger. It was consumption. It was the end of worlds. How could it be sad? "I consume life," the creature rumbled, trying to regain its psychological advantage. "I have ended civilizations older than your species. I am inevitable." "That does sound sad," Maya agreed, nodding with the matter-of-fact wisdom of childhood. Being hungry all the time must be awful. And being alone. She paused, looking around the vast chamber. "You are alone, aren't you?" "That's the saddest part." The Devourer's ancient mind reeled. In all its existence, no being had ever expressed sympathy for it. Fear, hatred, defiance, these it understood. But this small human creature looked at eons of predatory horror and saw loneliness. Dr. Vasquez stepped forward slightly. "Maya has a point. When did you last have a conversation that wasn't about surrendering or dying? When did someone last see you as you rather than just as a threat?" The memory surfaced unbidden. The Devourer's own species, long extinct, consumed by their own endless hunger. It had been the final iteration of its kind, perfected beyond the need for companionship or connection. It had told itself this was evolution, this was supremacy. Maya walked closer to one of the creature's massive tendrils, completely unafraid. "Do you have a name? A real name, not just the scary one?" For a moment that stretched across space and time, the Devourer remembered. Before the hunting, before the consuming, before it became the terror that stalked between stars, it had been different. It had been Kalos, youngest of its clutch, the one who asked too many questions, who wondered what lay beyond their world's dying sun. Kalos. The word escaped before it could stop itself. A whisper that hadn't been spoken in 4 million years. Maya's smile brightened. "Hi, Kalos. I'm Maya. Are you hungry right now? Not scary hungry, but actual hungry? We brought sandwiches." Captain Chen blinked. "Maya, that's not exactly—" "Why not?" Dr. Vasquez interrupted softly. When did we last share a meal with someone we didn't understand? The devourer, Kalos, stared at these impossible creatures. The child was already unpacking something from a small container, and the scent that wafted up was unlike anything in its sensory catalog. Not the life essence it typically consumed, but something crafted, something made with care. You would share sustenance with me? It's just peanut butter and jelly, Maya said, holding up a small triangular food item. But Mom says sharing food is how people become friends. For the first time in eons, the devourer's hunger changed. Instead of the endless consuming void that had driven it across the galaxy, it felt something smaller, more specific, more human. It extended one delicate tendril and carefully accepted the offered food. The taste was unlike anything it had ever experienced, not the raw energy of consumed worlds, but something complex, layered with intention and care. The sweetness of processed fruit, the richness of ground nuts, the simple sustenance of grain, all held together by the most alien ingredient of all, the love that had made it. It's good, Kalos said, and its voice had changed, becoming smaller, more uncertain, more real. Maya clapped her hands together. Want to see pictures of our world? Not the scary defense stuff, but the pretty parts. The parts worth protecting? As the child began to show holographic images of Earth, sunsets over oceans, children playing in parks, families gathered around tables, lovers walking hand in hand, the devourer understood something that had eluded it for 4 million years. It had been hunting not for food, but for the very thing this small human had offered freely: connection, recognition, the simple acknowledgement of one being by another. I think, Kalos said slowly, I have been hungry for the wrong things. Dr. Vasquez smiled then, an expression that echoed her. Daughters. It's never too late to try a different kind of sustenance. The creature that had terrorized 17 civilizations began to weep, not the tears of any earthly biology, but a deep harmonic resonance that spoke of grief and relief and the possibility, however small, of redemption. And in the space between worlds, a monster learned to smile.